Hearing that we have a quorum, I will now call to order the THPRD Budget Committee work session for April 20th, 2023. Jessica, would you mind please taking the roll?
Sure. Elizabeth Edwards.
Present.
Heidi Edwards.
Here.
John Casino. Not seen him check in yet. Chris Howard.
Here.
There he is. Barbie Miner. She has been excused this evening. Felista Monteblanco.
Here.
Alfredo Moreno.
I'm here.
Tia Ping has also been excused. Carolyn Wee.
Here.
Natalie Zenner.
Here.
And John Casino, I saw you log on. Are you here?
He's here working on his audio. Yeah. Okay. So I think then we're ready for agenda item number 2. I will now open the floor for a motion to approve the February minutes as submitted. Do I have a motion?
This is Heidi. I'll make a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Lisa.
All right. In favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? So approved. Okay, General Manager Doug Menke will now provide this evening's opening comments. Doug, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone this evening. As it were, looking out, yes, it's still raining a tad bit. However, there's lots of activity going on. I'm here at the complex, 158th and Walker Road, so there's plenty of activity. So this evening, it's a critical night for the Park District, the budget review process for this coming fiscal. We certainly do appreciate the budget committee members, your time and effort. You play a critical role as a voice for the public in this process. Your representation matters. You're here to listen. We're here to listen to your feedback as staff delivers the overall draft budget proposal. You'll hear brief reports from each of our directors, and then you all will have an opportunity to discuss, ask questions, clarifications, whatever it may be. The directors, where appropriate, will provide brief responses to some of those advanced questions that were submitted that you all have the responses to already via email. But for anyone watching, I suspect that your questions may be some of their questions. So it'll be a good opportunity to kind of relay that information and allow the general public to hear it as well. Before we jump in, we certainly want to say thank you to Jared Isaacson, our CFO, his team, Olivia Sujimaro, accounting and budget manager for us. As you recall, last year we were in an interesting transition where Jared was with us, but Olivia carried the ball, and now Jared's got the ball. So he's doing great, and his team is doing wonderful, and we really appreciate Olivia's support during that time period, carrying us forward today, and she continues to do great work for the Park District. I also want to acknowledge that we're certainly still feeling the effects of the pandemic. Particularly in terms of labor market, staffing shortages and inflation. The pandemic has, of course, brought numerous challenges to all sectors of the economy, and we are certainly feeling it in local government. While we have our fiscal challenges, I'm pleased that we're able tonight to look ahead at our proposed budget with some certainty. We're delivering a balanced budget to the budget committee that delivers on our district's values and priorities. As each director walks through their departmental budgets, we've asked them to highlight some of that very work that does tie us to the board of directors' goals. We're also looking ahead to the future, as we've shared with you at our mid-year meeting back in February. We do have some real fiscal challenges to address. Simply put, our revenues are outpacing our expenses, and we've got some work to do to expand revenue resources. That's why we're putting the work in now to look at all options in front of us, including doing the research based on Board of Directors' direction on the possibility of a local option levy in early 2024 to support districts' operations. It's important as we review tonight's budget, we also think about our budget priorities to develop sustainable operating and funding models to ensure long-term resiliency of THPRD's offerings. I believe by working together with our Board of Directors, we can utilize our organizational values and budget priorities to create a tight roadmap to guide our future. We've drafted for you a budget that delivers on our responsibilities to provide exceptional park and recreational amenities to the community. Our budget also ensures we are living our values of supporting and ensuring meaningful access to underrepresented populations. And our budget is designed to be immediately responsive to changing conditions. We will continue the practice as we have for the last 3 years now. We've established during the pandemic period a planning for and asking for a full budget appropriation. However, acknowledging that we will continue to tightly monitor existing conditions and adjust spending targets quarterly to align with updated revenue projections and fiscal realities. So with that, I'm going to turn things back to our committee chair, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Doug. The next item on the agenda is public comment. So this is the time that we set aside in our agenda for public comment. I understand that we do not have any public comment that's been received for this evening's agenda. Can staff please confirm this?
That's correct.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate it. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item. And I will turn it over to Deputy General Manager Aisha Panis to provide information on the district's planning process. Aisha?
Let me just get my system set up here. Just a moment. Thank you. Good evening. I am Aisha Panis, Deputy General Manager for the Park District, and I wanted to provide some overview of our large-scale vision, mission, and plans that guide our organization for the future. So our national award-winning Vision Action Plan, together with our mission, vision, and equity and inclusion statements, all were used to develop our recently adopted comprehensive plan, which you see sort of in the top middle of the screen there. And that comprehensive plan provides a 20-year plan for growth for our district. Just this past week, our board did adopt the strategic plan, which you see in the middle of the screen. And this plan carried forward our ongoing and near-term activities and recommendations from the comp plan and identified the projects and initiatives that the district would prioritize within the next 3 to 5 years. The goals and objectives within that strategic plan are then carried out using the filters of the 5 functional plans that you see on the screen. And those are the documents that really guide how we do what we do to deliver our services here at THPRD. So the functional plans are the documents that provide our prioritization criteria that we use together with board priorities established each fall as we present a proposed budget to this body, which is what we're sharing with you tonight. So the district values and the budget priorities which guided the development of this proposed budget that are described in this budget document are described on your next slide. So I'll turn it over to our board president for more.
Hi, everyone. Felicita here. Just wanted to quickly mention our amazing values and budget priorities. Every year, the board of directors goes on a retreat and we talk about our values. In a nice surprise, our values don't change drastically every year, right? We have a North Star and we just kind of continue to fine tune it. We, as a board of directors and staff, live out these values and commit to them each year. So this year, which is on page 1 of the introduction tab, for those of you following at home, we are committed to leading with equity with a special attention to racial equity. This can be seen throughout all our work. I'm so proud of this and our continued dialogue, not only amongst ourselves, but also with our community about what this means and how we live out these values. We also are committed to environmental stewardship. We have parks and natural spaces, and all these amazing natural wonders that we are responsible for protecting. So really glad this is one of our North Stars, because if we don't protect it, then who will? A commitment to community vision. I think you have all heard about our amazing nationally award-winning community vision process that talked to over 10,000 people. And we're so proud of that. And that is such a critical component to what when we think about what comes next with regards to all the way to the comprehensive plan to our budget. Our community told us what they wanted, and that's who we're channeling. And then with regards to the budget priorities, these do shift every year a bit. Invest in our employees and technology. That makes perfect sense. Our employees are our greatest asset. We want to make sure that they have what they need and feel supported. We also know that technology is a critical piece to their success and the experience of our users and patrons. Focusing on strengthening programming opportunities. Programming is the first connection for so many folks, and how are we staying unique and relevant, and offering program that the community truly wants. And then Doug touched upon this, developing sustainable operating and financial models for the future. We want this organization to exist for decades to come, so the next generation can enjoy all these wonderful amenities and resources. And so we need to set it up for success and keep that in mind as we vote on a budget. I think that's it. Thanks, everybody.
And with that, Jared Isaacson, Finance Director for the district, I get to talk to you about our budget strategy. As you've heard in the message from Doug, as well as in the budget priorities and values, we have put this budget together with an emphasis on looking to the future. We have included investments in our greatest asset, our employees, with the implementation of a classification and compensation study for full-time staff and a 10% cost of living adjustment for part-time staff. We are also working towards expanding sustainable revenue opportunities to enhance the district's operations. This year, we are continuing the practice of requesting a full appropriation of the district's budget with the intent to complete revised operating plans throughout the year. Next slide, please. This is a summary of all of the district's general fund. We are proposing an $83 million budget, which represents just under a 1% decrease from the prior year. Now, this decrease is driven by almost a $4 million decrease in capital projects, which has been offset by increases in personnel services and materials and services. Next slide, please. When we look at the general fund resources, they total just over $83 million. The largest source of the resources is property taxes, comprising 47% of the proposed budget, totaling $39.2 million. The next largest source is our carry forward from the current year, which is projected to be $21.5 million, making up an additional 26% of the budget. The program fees and charges are projected to be $13.8 million, or 17% of the budgeted resources. And the remaining resources for the general fund include the grants and sponsorships revenues at 9% and other revenues at 1%. Next slide, please. This is a pie chart of the general fund expenditures by type. Personnel services, being the largest portion of the proposed expenses at $45.3 million, represents 55% of the overall proposed general fund budget. Personnel services shows an increase from last year's budget, primarily due to the implementation of the classification and compensation study for full-time staff, as well as that 10% cost of living adjustment for part-time staff. Now, materials and services of $13.2 million have increased by 7.3% due to a 7% inflationary factor and various utility rate increases. And our capital outlay of 14.3 million has decreased by 20% over the last year. And we will be reviewing proposed capital spending later this evening. Next slide, please. When we look at our general fund requirements by division, we see that it's broken up between recreation services being the largest, park services being the second largest, administration and capital projects, contingency, the board of directors, and capital replacement reserve. And we will be reviewing these division proposals in the upcoming slides. And with that, I'd like to pause to see if there are any questions. Seeing no questions, we will go ahead and move on to our next slide. There are not any organizational changes in the proposed budget, and there are only a handful of full-time staff changes included. First, looking at the additions, the proposed budget includes an additional finance and payroll specialist in the finance services department, the sports and inclusion director position, and a building technician position were added to the recreation department. There were 6 full-time preschool teacher positions which were eliminated in the proposed budget, which resulted in the net effect of reducing the district's FTE by 3. Next slide, please. The board of directors, I see I have a question. Before I move on much further, I'll go ahead and entertain that question.
Hi, John Casino. Sorry, I wasn't sure if we were gonna switch to a new topic, and I wanted to just touch on that last one.
Sure.
So yeah, thank you for covering the FTE and the cost of living adjustments. That's really helpful to see how that connects, from the board priorities to how it's being implemented, and that sounds like a very appropriate step. About the 6 preschool teachers, thanks for answering that question. I asked that question about what the situation is there, and I understand that that's complicated. I wanted to give a voice of support to trying to work through that a little bit more if there's opportunity. I don't know all the complexities. We have a child, my son is in the THPRD preschool programs. He's actually in 2 of them. And they are phenomenal. We were a little concerned about his kindergarten readiness from a program that was not a good fit before he came into the THPRD programs. And now he's been in those 2 for nearly a year, entering kindergarten in September with no concerns about kindergarten readiness. And that's attributable to the teachers and the staff in those programs. And so I did want to call that out. I think that THPRD has exceptional kindergarten readiness and preschool programs. And I just want to, I just would like additional people to be able to experience that. I understand that there's still 32 positions, and so it's off of 38, and it's not a backing up of a commitment toward preschool, but wanted to voice a personal anecdote related to those. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I saw that you popped on the screen. Would you like to speak at all about those preschool teachers?
Yes, I'm happy to talk about it and not to go into too much detail, but we are committed to continuing to partner with Northwest Regional. So I want to assure everyone that we did not remove any teacher positions. We were just not able to complete that partnership with Northwest Regional. We are still in discussion with how we can continue to support those teachers and add instructional content in those classrooms. So it's not that it's necessarily done, but we are just continuing to explore it, and we just removed them from the budget this year. So we definitely are exploring different options that may just look differently as in full-time teacher support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate the feedback on that.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, back to our slides. The proposed board appropriations total $470,393 for the coming year. This includes direct costs for legal and audit services, district memberships, and training costs for board members. Next slide, please. Administration includes appropriations for the Office of the General Manager, Communications, Human Resources, and Finance Services. The proposed administration budget totals just under $14.4 million. The Office of the General Manager includes funding to further the district's values and budget priorities, support each department's efforts, and to continue to implement the Vision Action Plan. Next slide, please. Within the administration division, the appropriations are split 49% to communications, which includes information services, 26% to finance services, 20% to human resources, and 5% to the Office of the General Manager. And with that, I'll turn it over to Holly Thompson, the Communications Director.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Holly Thompson, and I'm THPRD's Communications Director. I serve and lead the Communications Division, which we have 4 unique programs within our division: Communications, Community Programs, Safety Services, and our IS department. And for folks out there, we call IT IS. I don't know why. Maybe we'll relabel it someday. I kind of hope so. So the communications department encompasses our staff who work on, oh, next slide, please. I should have said that. Oh, no, we're on the communications. I lied. Sorry, Jessica. Okay, so the communications department encompasses our staff who work on graphic design, digital engagement, equity and engagement, and financial aid. We wear many different hats in this department. We work on supporting district-wide public engagement efforts. We customize outreach plans for staff working as internal community engagement consultants and focus on ensuring our equity and community vision values in our outreach work. This next year, a good deal of our time will be spent supporting the entire district on exploring the possibility of an operating levy in 2024. And this certainly ties in strongly with one of our top budget priorities for the year to develop sustainable financial and operating models. This effort will take an intense amount of focus and will dominate our work in the next fiscal year. Our work is guided by district values in this department, and we spend a great deal of our energy centered on equity and community vision. This year, we developed the district's language access policy that we just completed, and it ensures meaningful access for English language learners that we serve. This next year, we'll be doing work to complete a Title VI plan for the district. We have coordinated interpretation and translation requests district-wide, ensuring the translation of nearly 200 documents into multiple languages. Last year, THPRD had over 30 diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility partnerships, and we hosted those with existing partners and added new partners and new groups. These partnerships were achieved through culturally specific events, such as our Talking Walls, Welcoming Week activities, and co-produced with community-based organizations, all with the intent to activate THPRD spaces. Since the start of 2023, we've seen an increase in partner participation and special programming and activities. In addition to one-day events, examples are our art workshops with Corazon Handcrafts, upcoming Mayan exhibition, the Buffalo Soldiers documentary screening, ongoing free Aztec dance classes, the Black History Mobile Museum, Women Only Swim with Arabic House, and the start of a Puripeche Indigenous ball game team, and more. Long-standing partners have started to apply for their own grants to continue with events and programming in THPRD spaces. So our strategy of working with community-based organizations, inviting them into THPRD, seeding them with initial grant and support, and helping them establish their own ongoing relationships has been thriving. We've also worked closely with the Rec Division and expanded our successful pre-registration support event, Centro de Bienvenida, for English language learners and financial aid families. Continuation of the Migrant Education Program partnership with BSD is going strong. This year, they have provided $50,000 in funds for families to register for classes and camps and to purchase passes. THPRD also has a new partnership with BSD. We're working with the McKinney-Vento program, and we're aiming to support students and families experiencing homelessness, which they have pledged $25,000 in grant funding for. We've also continued the continuation of staff training aimed at delivering personalized attention in a way that a patron experiences going beyond class registration, where staff provide a deeper understanding of additional THPRD spaces, programs, services, and resources. All of this effort with Centro has culminated in a 500% increase in class registration through the Centro process, which is amazing. We also worked with the Rec Division on a new way to promote summer camps, the Summer Mini Guide, that have met our community vision ask of making information easier to get for the public, and it has been very well received. On the next slide, we will talk about the Community Programs Department. We focus in community programs on leading district-wide events and our district-wide volunteer program. This is a very small team. They have one full-time person working on our volunteer program with the support of part-time staff. Volunteers are an important backbone of our organization, and they enable the work that we do throughout the district. Our staff help coordinate about 2,700 volunteers annually who donate 35,000 hours of service to the district. This work enables all three of our district values, especially in terms of environmental stewardship, as volunteers help care for and maintain many of our resources, from natural areas, community gardens, park sites, tree plantings, and more. The volunteer program's leadership in the Diversify program and RISE program for youth helps the district with pipeline and employment, developing employees, and making strong connections with BIPOC youth to consider THPRD as a first choice for employment. Our community events staff run 35 district-wide community events year-round and offer logistical and technical support to many other departments and agencies on community involvement asks. And I'm really proud of this team. As resources have been stretched, we've called on them more and more to support D&D, planning, and rec division, and they've been hitting it out of the park with less resources than we typically have to give them. And our events team has seamlessly supported the work of planning D&D and grant-funded projects as they've coordinated events in support of public involvement needs, greatly improving the district's participation in public involvement efforts and realizing our community vision goals. Both of these teams have worked to increase partnerships with culturally specific organizations, many of whom have become new partners to THPRD. On the next slide, we'll see that the Safety Services Program continues to be a real bright spot for the district in terms of program development. Under the amazing leadership of our Safety Services Manager, Mark Pierce, and our lead worker, Angel, this team is firing on all cylinders. I am incredibly proud of their work, both in responding to safety issues in our facilities, parks, and outdoor spaces, but also in upping our participation in regional emergency management work. Our community vision calls for us to keep our spaces safe, accessible, and welcoming, and that's what this staff does. Highlights this year are the completion of soon to be approved by our board. So I should say we'll complete it this year. The Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, which once it's adopted, it really opens up the district to be able to apply for federal grants to assist us with emergency management infrastructure. Again, focusing on that budget priority of helping us to develop sustainable operating and financial models. We've also upped our participation in countywide emergency management response. And the one thing I want to say is a big thank you to the Budget Committee for your support in investing in employees. Through your support, we were able to add 2 part-time safety services staff this year. And that has ensured that we've had a buddy system and that we have 2 staff to respond at all times on all shifts to challenging calls, which has really increased safety response for both our staff and for patrons. So thank you so much for your support. Our final program on the next slide is information services. This is another very tiny but very hardworking team. The work that they do literally every day enables the rest of us at the district to do our jobs. Without technology, we wouldn't even be in this meeting today. So this team has been killing it in terms of adaptability. All of us are working differently. They have already had the challenge of serving an organization that's spread out. We have many different buildings, many different locations. Now they've had to adapt to work from home and hybrid and more. And our big focus right now in IS is the continuation of the enterprise project, formerly known as Tyler Munis. This is an update and a conversion of our district's financial system. The system is expected to go live by January 2024, and it takes a ton of coordination and effort from this team to make that happen. Staff have also been working on compliance and safety updates, ensuring that we're safe from cyber intrusions and other nefarious acts. You'd be shocked, they happen every day. There's a lot of them. They're on their toes at all times. And we're streamlining processes, trying to make it easier to support staff with device management. So lots going on in IS. And with that, I will turn it over to Christine Hoffman.
Thank you very much. Hello, as Holly said, I'm Christine, and I am the HR director for the district. And our team includes the HR, safety, and risk management functions. And those combined teams are deeply engaged in living our values and our budget priorities and our equity work and investing in our people every day. So for human resources, this has been the tightest labor market of my career. Keeping up a continuous cycle of recruitments has been a key priority that we're struggling with. Our talent specialist, Naomi Levine, has done an amazing job partnering with hiring managers to fill 60 full-time vacancies, 25 of them through promotion, which is really exciting to provide those internal pathways for staff. And she also contributed to the sourcing of hundreds of part-time employees. A critical piece of the priority of investing in employees is ensuring that our total compensation is consistent with market. This year, the HR team worked with a third-party consultant, our labor group, our finance division, and entire district leadership to implement the district's first full-time compensation and classification study in decades, literally, which was a huge undertaking. After a brief pause for celebration, that work continues as we track employment data and the impact of inflation on the cost of labor, particularly for our part-time and seasonal workforce. Our HR team members, including me, are especially energized by the work that we do to support the district's employee-led committees, both our Welcome and Inclusion Committee, which is our internal equity group, and our Employee Engagement Committee that we call EPIC EST. This year, district employees have also formed our first district-supported employee resource group for employees who are refugees and immigrants. And we expect more groups to come together to share their experiences in safe spaces over the next year. With an unprecedented number of our employees brand new to THPRD, the emphasis on training, development, and coaching continues to be a critical need. The HR team delivered or facilitated our highest ever level of DEI, leadership, compliance, and technical training in this current fiscal year, and we look forward to exceeding that level next year. All of this work is critical to maintaining the culture of engagement, inclusion, and innovation that goes into providing park and recreation services to our community. So moving on to our risk and benefits team, I'm really excited. I was very excited to see Mark Hawkinen, who is the leader of that team, shared that he has seen the alignment of our risk and benefit folks together within the HR division as very effective. And he acknowledged that uniting those two areas has allowed us to better serve our employees' holistic needs, which is exactly what we're here for. So by combining employee safety, employee health benefits, protected leaves, and insurance administration, we are able to provide better service and to have efficiencies that enable us to do more. With the end of the federal emergency for COVID-19 in May, we are very, very excited to be able to provide increased staff training on site safety evaluations and risk analyses rather than continuously re-updating COVID safety rules and performing contact tracing. Realistically, though, as the world continues to adjust to the social and economic impacts related to the pandemic, our insurance premiums are going to continue to be impacted by that and by natural disasters, cyber attacks, and unrelenting liability verdicts against government agencies. So we will continue to partner with other special districts on pooling those risks and to act on areas that are within our district span of control. So combining HR and risk has allowed our work-related leave and our work comp leave and our family medical leave practices to become centralized and aligned. And that was really important prior to employees having access to Oregon paid family leave this September, which we expect to be a huge benefit to employees. And by consolidating, we are simplifying access to that benefit. In closing, for the HR division, district employees are THPRD. And our combined team members worked really hard this past year and look forward to continuing to improve how we serve and support our current, former, and future employees. So with that, back to Jared Isaacson again.
Thank you, Christine. So Finance Services works to provide financial and operational integrity and credibility to the district. We do this through transparency and reporting and planning. The key initiatives for Office of the Finance Director in the upcoming fiscal year include the continued implementation of the financial system. And this implementation process is in phase 2A with an anticipated go-live date of January of 2024. The final phase of the project, phase 2B, will occur when we have completed phase 2A. We're just not sure when that will start yet. We will also ensure that the district's pension funding policy is fully implemented. We will support the equity vision of the district and support the finance services and accounting and budget operations in any way that I can. Next slide. Finance Services Department is responsible for operational accounting activities, including payroll, pension and retirement, accounts payable, cash receipts, as well as investment of public funds, purchasing and support of the accounting and budgeting functions. For the upcoming year, the department goals include continuing the implementation of the new financial system. We have also included funding for the upgrade of part-time wages to a permanent finance and payroll specialist position to take on the Oregon paid leave requirements. The Finance Services Department supports the equity vision of the district through our support of the grant funding and compliance process. Grant dollars allow the district to expand programming for our diverse community, and finance ensures that our spending and documentation of that spending under the program meets all compliance requirements. The proposed budget for the department includes continued funding for the procurement administrator, whose role includes prioritization of equity in procurement. The administrator will be performing outreach to small businesses and continued implementation of the district's self-defined minority business procurement process, with goals of education and outreach to minority businesses in the local area. The department will also continue to develop and implement procedures in sustainability and equity in purchasing. These procedures will be emphasized in all capital projects. Next slide, please. The Accounting and Budgeting Department is responsible for the district's accounting, financial reporting, performance measurement, financial planning, budgeting, business planning, and management of the district's financial data. Key initiatives for the upcoming year include the continuing of the implementation of the new financial system, to continue to support the district's grant strategy and ensure compliance with timely reporting for grant data, and to continue implementing the resource allocation strategy and evaluation of program offerings. And with that, we will take a pause to see if there are any questions about administration. Felicita.
Thanks, Jared. I think my question is kind of I'm wondering what measure of success we're using around our minority and women-owned businesses. I imagine like an increase. I know we got, I don't expect a full report, just to be clear. And if it makes more sense to follow up, then go ahead. But that was just going through my mind as you were chatting.
Sure. No, that's a good question. One which I'm not prepared to answer tonight, and would be happy.
That's
to
fair.
follow up. So yes, we will follow up on that one.
Thank you, Jared.
Yep. Somebody else raised their hand that I can't see. Oh, John.
Oh, hi. I think I'm remembering something, but I could get confused a little extent. I might not be. I might be confusing with something else. But was one of the technology improvements that was discussed at one point, maybe it was last meeting, updating the portal, the member portal, or am I like the payment and like registration portal?
Oh,
Or
John,
am I just off base?
I think you are singing the song we all want to sing.
Okay, I made
We're
that
a little bit of ways. We got to get through the financial system rollout. After we complete the financial system, website and registration system will be next.
Okay, maybe I saw that on a long range plan or something. Okay,
Well, we're right
thank you.
there with you. We got to do it.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, I will go ahead and turn it back over to Aisha Panis, Deputy General Manager.
Thank you, Jared. While I am the Deputy General Manager, I also am the Director of the Park Services Division. And so I'm excited to be able to share the story of that division with you tonight. The Park Services Division is charged with providing for the full life cycle of parks, trails, facilities, and natural areas within the district. So our proposed budgets within the division were crafted taking into account district values of leading with equity, environmental stewardship, and commitment to community vision. These values are evident in our use of data-driven processes to identify areas of the district that do not currently meet our adopted level of service standards. And within those areas, we seek to ensure more equitable access by providing new spaces and desired recreation options that were voiced by our community members in the visioning process. Key efforts underway this year included adopting and implementing the initial recommendations of the Climate Action Plan, the first plan of its kind for THPRD. We will also invest resources in the budget priority relating to developing sustainable operating and financial models for the future by working to refine our asset management and capital improvement planning process. On the next slide, I'll share information regarding the appropriations requested to support the division's work. So within the Park Services Division, the majority of our appropriations go to the Maintenance Operations Department, which is charged with providing free, open, and safe parks and athletic facilities across the district. The second largest appropriation is to our Nature and Trails Department, which cares for our natural areas and trails. And the balance of the Park Services Division budget is allocated to the Planning and Design and Development Department budgets, as well as the Office of the Director budget, which includes the funding for district lobbying efforts, staff development and training, and long-range planning efforts to deliver on district values and budget priorities discussed earlier tonight. On the next slide, we'll discuss our Maintenance Operations Department. The Maintenance Operations Department provides for the care of parks and athletic facilities across the district, manages the district's fleet program, and includes the specialized trade staff that maintain district buildings and their critical systems, which include plumbing, mechanical, electrical, heating, cooling, and ventilation systems. Key initiatives in this department include managing the capital improvement program planning process, shepherding the district's conversion to electric-powered components, and reviewing our best practices to implement recommendations from the coming Climate Action Plan. The next slide takes us to the Planning Department. And this group represents the district across the county and region on long and short-term planning efforts related to land use and transportation. These efforts ensure that THPRD's own planning efforts are reflected where needed, and that is mainly to ensure access to funding. The department is also responsible for managing the System Development Charge Program to ensure that the funds are received as development occurs and that these SDCs are spent on new parks, trails, and spaces to serve the community. The district's grants administrator and engagement and partnership specialist are located in the planning department, and they also serve as resources to the rest of the division and district-wide. The next slide describes the work of our design and development department. As the implementation of the 2008 bond has approached its completion, staff in the Design and Development Department have shifted to tackling new activities, primarily the delivery of parks and trails using system and development charges, as well as other funds such as Metro's Parks and Nature Local Share Bond funds. Staff is completing the permanent restroom projects, leading larger capital replacement projects, and working with developers on SDC credit agreements in which the developers build the parks in exchange for credits to be used towards the SDC charges they would pay. And on the division's final slide, I'd like to talk with you about the Nature and Trails Department. Environmental stewardship is the focus of the Nature and Trails Department. The department cares for the district's natural areas and manages and maintains the regional trail network within THPRD. A major focus in the current fiscal year that will continue into next year is the finalization of the Climate Action Plan and the initial implementation of its recommendations. Last year, a new position was added to the Nature and Trails Department in response to a budget priority that called for planning for the long-term care of THPRD's parks, trails, and facilities. This position, which is focused on data analysis, will shift slightly in response to the current priority of developing sustainable operating and financial models. And this is by helping us to select a new asset management system and assisting with the analysis in guiding our decisions about long-term maintenance of our properties. We did receive from the Budget Committee some interest in learning more about the plans for an asset management system. And once I get started on this, I might not stop. We could be here forever. I don't know. But I am excited to share that we are preparing for bringing our methods of tracking the presence and condition of our capital assets into the future. Traditionally, Excel has been used by park and recreation agencies to track their capital replacement program and deferred maintenance, but it has limits to the amount of data it can manage. And with a system of our size, we need to take this step forward in order to find a situation or a solution that can really track all of our capital assets. And what we truly want to be able to do are ask questions of this system. We want to be able to get quick feedback on a question like, how many acres of parkland do we have? Currently, it's a little bit trickier to come up with that answer. If we had an asset management system built specifically for tracking all of that information, we could really quickly come up with that information. And it's a better way for us to analyze and make decisions, data-driven decisions about how we invest our resources. So we hope that this work will really help us optimize our operational models also as we care for our district property. So I'll pause here, and on the next slide, we'll see if you have any questions. So, oh, there's one. It was almost uncomfortably long, but we made it. Yes.
So I just, you may have said this, but I'm curious about the timeline. It's very exciting to think about what the district could do with a system like this. So I think this is my third year on the budget committee, so I don't know if I'll be around for the next one, but you know, at next year's committee, at what point in the process do you think you'll be as far as identifying, procuring, all of those things?
We are absolutely in the first phase of scoping, of making sure that what we're doing right now is ensuring that the data that we do have is good data. We want to make sure that we're tracking information that we're going to be using, because that helps us do the system requirements for determining what we need to find in a new solution. So I really expect this year to be much more on robust data management of what we have in the system we have, and knowing what questions to ask as we evaluate different software solutions. So I think this is a research year, a research and scoping year, and we could potentially be back in the next budget year to request funding for moving that forward, but scoping and research for FY24.
That sounds great. And I guess I would just put in a plug that there are a lot of really exciting tools that could be used to even see, what are the demographics of the populations that have access to how many acres of parkland. So I think there are real opportunities for equity analysis to advance the district's goals there. And I just think it's really exciting.
We are also excited. Thank you. If there are no other questions, I will now turn the presentation over to Julie Rocha with our Recreation Division.
Thank you, Aisha. Good evening. I'm Julie Rocha, the Sports and Inclusion Director. There are two directors in the division, and you'll hear from Sabrina a little bit later. The Recreation Division includes aquatics, recreation, sports, and inclusion services. We provide a broad range of programs and special events serving a diverse community and providing health and wellness. Just to highlight a few things in the division, we continue to invest in our staff. We offer a variety of internship opportunities to expose folks to careers in park and recreation and to break down systemic barriers. The Diversify internship is a paid internship program designed for students who identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color to build and develop professional workplace skills with the guidance of park and recreation supervisors and career mentors. We have hosted 9 interns, and I actually just approved our 10th intern for hire today. And we also received a grant from OED Future Ready to expand the program. The Nature Experience and Workforce Training NEWT program is a nature program for interns, and they are responsible for assisting with the planning and instructing nature camp and nature program activities for summer participants. These are paid positions for Latinx youth ages 16 to 19. Staff has been focusing on Play for Everyone. To highlight a few, it includes Jump In Water Safety 101, Adaptive Sports Center, PE for homeschool kids, creative dance to hip hop ballet, STEM classes, gymnastics, sports, cooking, and music. We offer a variety of free and paid fitness opportunity. And if you haven't had a chance, you need to check out Glow in the Park. And we also have several group fitness classes. We are doing several cultural events that will be highlighted later in the presentation. As we continue to find ways to further our diversity, equity, inclusion, and access work, in September, the district adopted a gender inclusion policy. We provided a 2-part training series for all staff. A team of staff are continuing to meet to review the activity guide to remove gendered language. We also are in the process of replacing all of our signs, single stall restrooms with the help of Keith Watson and his team. This spring, THPRD will host an open league and has removed the gendered language to replace co-ed softball. I will now turn it over to the Recreation and Aquatics Director, Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt. Next slide, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Julie. As she said, I'm Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt, and I'm the Recreation and Aquatics Director. The total division appropriation is divided out between sports and inclusion, recreation, aquatics, maintenance coordination, and the offices of the director. All of our recreation, sports, and aquatic facilities are open for a variety of hours, and we continue to expand our hours and programming. The Athletic Center, Bobette Hornstein Tennis Center, Conestoga Recreation Aquatic Center, Nature Center, Cedar Hills Recreation Center are shifting towards more typical traditional operation hours, and we continue to monitor programs each term and adjust hours as necessary. The budget reflects a new full-time maintenance position to support operations at our facilities, including our outdoor restrooms. Next slide, please. The Recreation Department budget helps support district's values as well as our budget priorities. The Recreation Department will be leading with equity with a special attention to racial equity by hosting and collaborating on community events and classes. We will continue with the NEWT program, providing that paid internship opportunities for 10 Latinx students in the summer of 2023 to support nature camps and nature mobile programming. As at the Nature Center, we will we will continue to plan on providing after-school nature sessions with our partner Adele Nante Majeras and their Chica students, Latina students in the elementary, middle, or high school at various BSD schools in the spring of 2024. We will also continue to partner with communications to host the Welcoming Center, focusing on providing exceptional customer engagement and coordinating the district's quarterly registration process and supporting the district's bilingual registration events. The Recreation Department will focus on strengthening our programming and our commitment to the community vision of play for everyone. Each quarter, these recreation facilities provide more than 500 diverse recreation programs, fitness classes, environmental education, sports, art, wellness, special events, preschool, and after-school programs. THPRD continues to provide partnerships with the Beaverton School Districts for free and reduced lunch programs, supper programs, after-school programs, sites that provide thousands of meals for children in the community. The Nature Center collaborates with the Beaverton Black Parent Union to host the Black and Green Fellowship, a paid workforce training experience to connect 12 BSD high school students to nature and parks and wellness. THPRD will continue to partner with the cultural organizations to offer dance classes. And as I spoke of earlier, we will continue to partner with Northwest Regional Educational Service District on placement within our 9-month preschool. As although we were unable to complete that partnership on funding the 6 full-time preschool teachers, we're going to continue to work together to see what we can do to explore options on how we can support those students in our classrooms and support and improve kindergarten readiness for those students. Next slide, please. The aquatics department budget also reflects district values and priorities. We are leading with equity with a special attention to racial equity by continuing to work with the affiliated sports programs to review and support the sports and inclusion department with the affiliated stakeholder work group. We also continue to expand our adaptive classes and also offering learn to swim classes for English language learners. Aquatics will continue to focus on strengthening programs and our commitment to our community vision for play for everyone. We are expanding our swim lesson academy and offering swim lessons at all 6 of our now open indoor facilities. We are expanding our open swim events such as our Wipeout, our dive-in movie, and other fun events. We continue to expand our women only and our sensory swims. We are partnering with our community stakeholders to offer culturally appropriate swim events such as men or women's only swim lessons. We are providing lifeguard courses consistently to help with the hiring, as well as at least 1 course each month. And we are continuing to promote the important message of drowning prevention through water safety education in our pools, as well as online marketing. And then we are also continuing to provide free and reduced price swim lessons with the THPRD's financial aid program. Next slide, please. Maintenance coordination, so important to everything we do, but they help and train and set our facility standards. They help develop the operational budget and propose capital project lists, help open our splash pads and our outdoor restrooms. And as I mentioned earlier, maintenance coordination budget reflects the addition of a full-time staff member to help operation, including those outdoor restrooms. And I would now like to pass it back to Julie Rocha, our Sports and Inclusion Director. Next slide.
Thank you. Sports and Inclusion Department includes the Athletic Center, Babette Hornstein's Tennis Center, Elsie Stir Center, Garden Home Recreation, Inclusion Services, the district-wide fitness team, and mobile recreation. The Athletic Center has been working with community sports affiliates to complete and review the reaffiliation process. Half of our affiliates have completed the process to date, and we're continuing to work with all sports groups over the next year. The Tennis Center has been working on expanding offerings for pickleball and tennis, including leagues. Both sports continue to grow, and staff is being creative on how to meet the demand. The LC Stir Center continues to expand services and programs as attendance grows. We've been partnering with the Friends of the LC Stir on day trips and dances, and they have subsidized the offering activities at a much lower cost, and we've had great attendance. The LC Stir Center has welcomed a new lease group, Wake Up Beaverton, committed to serving disadvantaged and marginalized people in Beaverton. Garden Rec Center has cultural events and education through month-long spotlights and one-day events. Staff continues to work with community partners to expand these offerings. We are again hosting over the next 2 weekends, Dia de los Niños and Mahaba, and many more cultural specific events. Rec Mobile will host 7 weeks of free summer camp for children experiencing houselessness, those living in low-income housing, and those who qualify for THPRD financial aid. Fitness in the Park is offering year-round and focused on traditionally underserved or low-income locations. This free fitness program allows patrons to start their journey towards a healthy lifestyle while removing barriers to the fees. Next slide, please. For inclusion services, Camp Rivendell is a summer day camp providing recreational opportunities for children and young adults with physical, emotional, and/or developmental disabilities. We'll be hosting 8 weeks of camps this summer at Jenkins Estate. This is 3 more than we were able to host last year. To date, inclusion services have provided 2,852 hours of support in our after-school programs, classes, and camps. The attendance continues to grow in our therapeutic recreation drop-in at the LC Stir Center on Monday nights, our Thursday night All-Star program at the Athletic Center, and wheelchair basketball in partnership with Adaptive Sports Northwest. The department is excited to bring back a triathlon for our community in a new format. Fact, Oregon is no longer able to partner for the All Ability Triathlon, so staff is being creative to combine the All Ability Tri for Youth and the Family Triathlon from previous years. So save the date on August 12th of 23. We are going to introduce the Tri Together Pedal, Run, Dip. And on the next slide, we are available for any questions. John.
Back to the after-school care for Thrive. Just curious if you have this information about what percentage of like those who need that service or request it are able to get placed in a Thrive program. I'm just wondering about like, you know, the availability versus kind of the need. Do you have anything like that?
I can speak for the Athletic Center. We were able to expand because we had room and include an additional site that had a need. Some of our other sites Sabrina can speak to about wait list and availability.
Yeah. For the most part, we have room to take more students in almost all of our programs, John. It is a kind of an interesting conundrum is some of them we provide transportation on. So it is a site by site situation. So if any of our vans are full, so it may be like one school, if that van is full, we may not be able to have transportation, but there may be room still within that site's location. So to give you the exact number of which school doesn't have space, it's not necessarily a site by site. So all of THPRD programs still have room for growth in them currently, but there may be 1 or 2 schools that have vans that are full, so we might not have the capacity to transport any of the students anymore. But this is something that we work with BSD on continually, like whether or not they have the ability to help with transport. We also always allow parents to provide transport, some sort of alternate transport, like if they have the ability to combine or do alternative transport. But I can definitely follow up with more detailed information working with Kristen Smith, our recreation manager.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I didn't necessarily need the details, so no need to follow up. It's more just exploring whether expansion is, you know, or whether the program is meeting the demands or if expansion in future years.
Yeah, pre-COVID we were full. Now our sites still have room for students.
Okay, wonderful.
I think in part two, John, and the full committee, there's a, we've done enough communications with the school district to kind of recognize that they themselves, with the various programs they have running in, whether they're outsourced predominantly, also have openings, so we're not in a position that we were perhaps pre-pandemic. There's a reality check now of this with the hybrid work environment. There are parents making different decisions along the way, and I think this will work out. I think we will continue to build. But part of it is the comfort level of the public as well, with their children.
Thank you. Very, very helpful.
Any
If there
other
are no other
questions?
questions, we'll pass it over to Jared Isaacson.
Thank you, Julie and Sabrina. Next, we're talking about our maintenance mitigation fund. Well, several years ago, we received funds for mitigation work completed on our sites to offset development impacts to wetlands elsewhere. The revenues were set aside in this fund to be the source of future maintenance work on these mitigation sites. While we are not receiving new revenue of this type, this fund houses the funds that may still be needed for future maintenance work. And in the next slide, we get to look at our debt service fund, which accounts for the annual property tax revenues and the annual debt service payments on our general obligation debt. Now, general obligation debt is debt approved by the voters to be repaid out of a designated additional property tax levy. This fund includes repayment of the $42.7 million outstanding bond balance from the $100 million 2008 bond levy. The levy amount is set based on the annual debt service payment required, and the rate is then determined based on the total assessed value. The total levy amount needed is $8.2 million, and based on our projected growth in assessed value, this would result in a property tax rate of 28 cents per thousand, which continues to be well below our projected rate of 37 cents stated in the 2008 election materials. This lower rate is due to a combination of the favorable market conditions at the time of original issue and subsequent refinancing, which reduced the total debt service amount to be paid by the district. And with that, are there any questions on those two funds or any of the other materials that we have covered thus far? Seeing none, I will go ahead and turn it over to Aisha Panis again.
Yes, hello. So I am going to talk to you about our general fund capital. So this is our capital replacement program, which the proposal for this year is a budget of nearly $14.8 million. A significant amount of that dollar figure is grant funded projects, and that includes $2.1 million for our Fano Creek Regional Trail improvements. Those were dollars provided through lottery bond proceeds, and a $1.9 million grant we received for funding the design and engineering of the West Side Trail Bridge. And that funding came from the Metro Parks and Nature Bond. We additionally got $1.9 million for permanent restrooms that are being provided through American Rescue Plan Act funds. The proposed budget also includes several larger projects, such as the continuation of the financial system conversion and ADA barrier removals within our parks and facilities. On the next slide, we'll go through some of the capital expenditures for this year, proposed for this coming year. And this appropriation reflects the dollars that we would put towards some of our bigger projects. The capital committee that we have that is representative of many, many work groups throughout our organization works together to evaluate all of the different capital projects that are on our list. And we have a 5-year plan that we review every year, and we look to see what should be moved to this coming year. And within this proposed FY24 list, one of the big projects is the Garden Home Recreation Center boiler project. So that's a replacement, but it also includes other replacements and improvements that we would be making to buildings, parks, and trails across the district. We do intend to complete the work to permit and install those permanent restrooms. That's happening at Hazeldale Park, Schiffler Park, and Greenway Park. And the construction for those restrooms is scheduled for early 2022 to be complete by the deadline of June 2024 to be complete by June of 2024. On the next slide, we'll show you a few more of the projects we're anticipating in the coming year. And these include surfacing repairs at several of our district tennis courts. And these repairs are not just a resurfacing, but it's also repairing any cracks that we have. And you can see on the slide, there are some significant ones. But we also add new surface paint and all of our new lines. Additional budget expenditures are going to be used to make asphalt repairs at several different sites, and these include both pedestrian pathways and trails. The selection of our asphalt projects were informed by a pavement condition index study that was done by our staff, but also based on risk assessments, and those are done on hard surfaces across the district to ensure that we're putting our resources to where we need to provide improvements and upgrades to infrastructure that might not be doing so well, as you can see on the left side of the screen there. The next slide we're talking about is our Metro Bond local share projects. And so these are funds provided from the 2019 Park and Nature Bond. There was a certain category that was called local share, and that was an allocation of funds from that bond to local park providers across the region to develop projects of their own. And the focus of these projects are primarily those that help introduce people to parks and nature. There's always a nice component to wildlife enhancement. And so the projects that we put together as our proposal for these funds were the ones you see on the screen here. So Willow Creek Boardwalk, which is kind of in the center of our district. Also, we're using these funds to develop a new community park, or a new neighborhood park, in the Bethany community of North Bethany off of Kaiser Road, and that's the Heckman Road property that is underway. And then we are going to be replacing some play equipment. We're going to have some accessible nature play equipment at 2 different sites within the district. So all 3 of these projects have gotten the green light from Metro, and we are in various stages of getting those underway. There is some remaining funds within that category that we're currently holding back because we've not yet gotten a final project approved there. So that is the Metro Bond Local Share Fund. And on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about our System Development Charge funds. So system development charges are those collected as development occurs within the district. And these dollars are restricted in that they can only be spent on activities or spaces that expand capacity for the district. So the idea is that development must pay these fees because development requires these types of services. These are the funds that we have to serve the growing community. So we do have a number of projects that are underway, and they're in different phases right now. One that we're really excited about is the new park development at La Raiz, which is off of Lombard. And this is a beautiful wooded site that we are going to be preserving a bunch of trees on, but also providing some really, really neat amenities within the park. So we've got a concept plan on the screen that you can see there. So that we're hoping to begin construction this summer. And we're also working on a design of a phase 2 to a park up in the North Bethany area called Abbey Creek. And then we're also working on concept planning of the Pointer Road property, which is in the northeast corner of the district. So a lot of exciting things happening with SDCs. In addition to SDCs, though, one really interesting thing that we're able to do is when we are able to work with developers ahead of time, we can reach credit agreements with these entities where they're going out and they're developing their homes, but they can also develop the park. based on our specifications, based on our input, guided very heavily by vision action plan goals. And we can actually issue credits. So instead of them paying the SDCs and then us going to develop the park at some point later, the park is able to be there right when the development goes in and the exchange is made. Our credits are issued, they've built the park, and they transfer that park to us, and we continue to care for it. So we have a lot of those arrangements going on in the South Cooper Mountain area currently, and so we have staff that monitor those progresses and make sure that we end up with a park that's going to be great for our community. On the next slide, we talk about the bond capital projects, and the slide on here, the photo on the slide here is our Mountain View Champions multipurpose sport court. And this is a project that has made its way through the land development process, and we've gotten the approvals we need. Now we just need to build it. So that is one of our goals with the bond project. In addition, we have some stream improvements that are going on, we hope, this summer at Raleigh Park. And then we also have one of our biggest projects that we purchased using natural area land acquisition dollars was the Bronson Creek Greenway at Laidlaw property, which is up at Laidlaw and Saltzman Roads. And we have funding from the bond to now do a major restoration of that site. So that is a project that is going to be kicking off this summer as well. So you see $2.388 million of appropriation there, and that is about the end of that $100 million bond. We have made great progress, and we are closing in on the last few projects for the Capitol. So I will pause and see if there are any questions for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi. Going back to your old boiler room. I don't know if that's actually the boiler that needs to be replaced, but just kind of a question about process and in the lines of like the mission for stewardship and environmental concerns. A lot of times kind of energy replacement is it's a longer process to sort of plan out for more environmentally friendly ways, like say solar farms going electric. Just kind of curious how much like what is being done in the process for determining when you replace this older equipment within buildings. How much of that is kind of within the lines of the environmental stewardship and what you're doing? Would you mind speaking in a little bit to that?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. So we are working in phases. We've got our kind of big vision. We just updated our comp plan. From the comp plan, we had a number of recommendations in 7 different goal areas. One of those recommendations made its way into the strategic plan as a near-term recommendation from the comp plan, and that was the development of a facilities functional plan. So I mentioned earlier tonight that we've got 5 functional plans that guide how we do the work we do. We've not had one specific to our buildings. So that was a recommendation that we are moving forward within this next near-term period of 3 to 5 years, where we are going to be looking at how we care for our buildings. And that includes making some decisions about when we replace versus when we maybe do something different entirely with a building. So when you speak about the building systems in particular, that is also going to come into play with our climate action plan. So we have not yet kicked off the work to do the facilities functional plan. We are in process on the climate action plan. Both of those things are going to be critical for helping us answer the questions about how do we make decisions about moving into the future with building systems in particular. And so we weren't there yet to make that call with the boiler at Garden Home. It's still an extremely viable building that has a lot going on in there, and we do need to provide the heat. That is the system that we needed to provide there. So I totally appreciate what you're saying, and I think we're just making all the steps to get us to the point where we can decide, is this worth making an investment? Where do we make this switch? What are the factors that we need to consider? And so we're in play on that, but we're not quite there.
Thank you. That helps.
Any other questions for me? Okay, if not, I will turn things back over to our chair, Chair Edwards.
Okay. That's not a photo of me, but it's pretty cute. Um, thank you everyone for the fantastic presentations. I'm going to open the floor to the Budget Committee for discussion regarding the district's proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. So now is the open call. If folks have other burning questions or comments, please share them. And maybe I'll just start by thanking staff for the tremendous work. Every time we do this, I'm always so impressed, and I learned something. I learned many new things, and new work is being layered on in thoughtful ways. So just a big thank you. I know it's a huge effort to also consolidate all of this information and to provide it to us and to the public. So starting with a thank you.
While they're formulating new questions, I do want to acknowledge, that we had a reasonable amount of questions come in for the committee, and we provided responses, of course, to the full committee. And I think, again, that's part of this process is as we evolve, as we're working through things, we continually our hope and desire is always to learn. And we live in a very active community that have great concepts and doing work together. It's probably another theme that I heard clearly from staff, the number of partnerships we have going, because we respect and understand this has been a great emphasis for our board that there's real value in working with community groups. One, they know our people best, they know their work best, and in partnership together, we have great outcomes.
John, go for it.
Okay, thank you. I think I formulated my thoughts here. Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation and the opportunity in general to participate and review and share some thoughts and I hope that they're helpful from all the committee members. It sounds like that you take them seriously though and incorporate them into your considerations, which is great to hear. And I was like looking at throughout the presentation like a tie back to board or district values and budget priorities, and I saw a clear connection throughout the whole presentation on district values in particular and budget priorities. And that's really was refreshing to see and excellent to see that get expressed through the budget. The one thing that I just wanted to ask about was the developing sustainable funding and operating models for the future, where the memo said, without course correction, we might need to reduce general fund spending by 21%, but that, there's a plan of action in the future, and we're doing sustainable funding and operating models. To what extent is this budget like a, on the path towards sustainable operating model versus like a gap fill in the middle, that kind of thing? Like how much iteration goes from this budget to like a forecasted kind of sustainable operating model budget?
Yeah, maybe I can start off, and then perhaps Aisha and maybe Jared or Holly can speak into this a little bit. I think the current budget you're seeing is that practice that we've had during the COVID years, and it's kind of unique that recognizing we do have some fiscal challenges coming out in front of us, that while we are asking for full appropriations, our intent is to pull back and with the board's review and monitoring on a quarterly basis, really tighten things up. And, I don't envision we will be spending all the money, because the reality is we are not making all the money. So we'll be making those adjustments and, tightening up where we can. Of course, the work that's being done with regard to rebuilding a model that's more sustainable, that's something I think maybe Aisha, if you could comment on some of the thought processes there. And we've been at work with the board of directors with a work session and more coming with regard to the option of a local option, which is a viable solution, and not an unheard of solution. Most local governments have that form of funding source, so it's certainly a very reasonable approach, and perhaps the larger component in terms of rebuilding that sustainable model. So, Aisha, if you want to add a few words.
Sure. Yes, what Doug said is exactly right. This is a regular budget, but it's a regular budget presented to all of you with the reminder that we are going to manage this budget just as we have for the last 3 years in COVID. So there are certainly some things that are aspirational within this budget that we would really, really like to do, but knowing what's ahead of us and knowing the exercise that we may have to adjust our budget, and this is something we shared with our board at last week's work session, there may be things that are in this budget that we will wait and see on, and they may be things that have to push out to future years because of what we're facing and what we're planning. With regard to the work we're doing for financial futures and ensuring that we have those sustainable models, we have been doing our internal work right now. I've been going around the district meeting with different work groups to talk about two primary things. And it is, what sort of operational efficiencies can we put into place now? Because we can save money now. And then what other ideas might we have for untapped revenue? And I have heard some really fun and creative ideas as I've gone out and talked to folks. And we've already heard some things that are wonderful things to explore. So we're starting that work and we're cataloging all that information. And what we intend to do is, within our kind of long range planning budget, we are planning on bringing in an outside consultant who can help us take a look at these ideas, really help us with the feasibility of implementing these ideas, what that might gain us. But we're also going to be looking at things like our overall resource allocation model, because if we do need to do things differently, we want to have a strategy and a plan, and we want to go through a public vetting process with our board members, with budget committee members, with our community. So that's the work that's underway now, and it's going to continue through this fiscal year into next fiscal year.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, and aside from that question, that was really kind of my only remaining question. It looks, outstanding to me. So thank you so much.
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you for a well thought out presentation and a well thought out budget. It is good to see the inclusion aspect reflected in the current year and the climate goals reflected already. So just from last year to this year, seeing that coming alive. I am interested to hear more about the asset management software system and what the costs and benefits are with that, given the climate that you're in. I'm sure that's going to be part of the exploratory year. Those are my only thoughts. All my questions were answered.
I'm counting to 10 in my head in case folks have other questions or comments before we move to the next agenda item. Okay. Well, the next item is talking about our next budget committee meeting. So the next budget committee meeting, right on cue, to consider approval of the FY 23-24 budget has been scheduled for Thursday, May 18th at 6 p.m. and it will be virtual, just like this one. And unless there's anything else, there being no further business this evening, our work session is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.